Hello, time for another midweek chat. I bicycled downtown, beautiful day, it's Wednesday. Had some rain last night, but today which is great, right? Get some rain at night, get water the earth, and it's nice during the day. Had to get down here before 6 o'clock, before Dotter's Books closed. I should have brought 2 copies so I could show you what I brought them, but I brought them the notice of Stephanie Saldana coming to St. James on October 22nd to do a reading and a presentation from her new award-winning book, What is Remembered Will Be Saved, a product of her interviews with refugees in the Middle East. And I've been mentioning this a lot, and I'm going to try to get flowers out to bookstores and churches. Maybe there's a refugee service, I think, in Eau Claire now too. I should get it over to them. Anyway, that brought me downtown. I've always kind of wanted to do a chat by this bee. Ugh. Nice, huh? So, I don't know, it's made out of recycled art, so that's a good thing. Got a haircut yesterday, just like a half block that way. That was nice. So, good old downtown. Lots to do, lots to see downtown. Okay, I got some parish news. I haven't been starting with parish news lately, so so we're gonna have a baptism next week at our school mass. Delilah is gonna be baptized. Her mom's presenting her for that, and they wanted to do the immersion, so we're not actually gonna dunk her in water because she's like a first grader, but we'll put her in a pool, like one of those little backyard pools, and have some water in it, and then pour water over her, God willing. That's the plan anyway, so we look forward to that. We had a school mass today. Hard readings today. It was from the first letter of Paul to the Corinthians, and it was that section on how you shouldn't get married because marriage requires too much work and too much attention. It's too distracting from things of the Lord, and he thought the Lord would be coming really soon, and so better, if you're not married, better to stay that way. It's basically what he said. What do you say to children about that, right? I forget what I said. I did mention it because I think you should mention the scriptures to them. So, but just that I forgot what I said. But he thought it was that Jesus was coming back, so they had to focus just on him. We still believe that, but it's been a long time, so we just do our best to love one another now and don't necessarily look to the clouds every day to think he'll be coming back, right? So, but the gospel I really like the gospel, but it's really hard. And I wish I had thought of some questions to ask the children because they're great at answering them, but it was Luke's Beatitudes. So do you know about Luke's Beatitudes? So you probably know Matthew's Beatitudes if you know just one. Oh, I'm going to quiz myself now. Blessed are the poor in spirit, the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Blessed are those who mourn, they'll be comforted. Blessed are the meek, they will inherit the land. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, they'll be satisfied. Blessed are those who show mercy, mercy will be shown to them. Blessed are the clean of heart, they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And blessed are those who are insulted and persecuted because of me, Jesus says. Your reward in heaven will be great. So that's Matthew. Those are all kind of positive things. There's kind of hard things about being sorrowful and meek and hungering for justice in the first 4. But in Luke, and they're less familiar to me too, I can't just rattle them off, but it's like, blessed are the poor. He doesn't say poor in spirit, he says poor. So Luke is known as kind of the evangelist to the poor. He's got a real heart for the poor. Prodigal son is in there. A Good Samaritan is in there, only in Luke, those 2 stories. And his Beatitudes are a little different. Blessed are the poor. For one day they will be filled. I don't think it says they will be rich. But blessed are the poor. Boy, I wish I wasn't planning on going into this. Blessed are the sorrowful, for one day they will laugh. Blessed are those who are insulted. So there's a lot of similarities because they treated the prophets the same way. And there's a fourth one. Laughing, crying, poor. And anyway, that seems well enough. It's comforting those who are in hard states, right? The poor, sad, sorrowful. But then it goes on. But woe to you who are rich, because you've already had your. You will lose it. You know. Blessed are those who laugh now. You'll be weeping. Blessed are those, or woe to you when people speak well of you, because they treated the false prophets the same way. So that's difficult, isn't it? And you know, you have children there, and I don't know if they have a sense of rich and poor, and you know, but you don't want to have people. Wow, there's something needing a muffler, huh? Yeah, I guess so. You know, because there are people there, and people they may have a lot of money, and I don't know if the kids know it there or not. They're saying, "Woe to you who are rich," and you know, for me, it's all about solidarity. Like at any given moment, like there's 7.5 billion people on Earth. Think of all the people that are laughing now and rejoicing. And is it woe to them? It's hard to say, you know. So what's Jesus' point, you know? And I think it's like as if we just kind of enjoy now, and we're kind of oblivious to others who are, because there's a billion people laughing and rejoicing right now, having the time of their life, and there's more than a billion, I'm sure, frightened and afraid and poor and starving, and we kind of hold that all in our hearts, you know. If you hold that all in your heart every day, I mean, that's the stuff of God. God holds that all in his heart. We hold that in our hearts when we pray. I remember listening to a talk once. She was trying to describe the difference between sadness and sorrow. And sadness or depression, or those are different too, but just the emotion of not feeling good or being sad. And she said sorrow is kind of holding the suffering of the world in your heart. You know, holding the suffering of the world in your heart. And that's, for me, that's a wonderful prayer. Maybe it's a prayer that we should all do every day. You know, we're all God's children. My life's not just about me securing my life and, you know, making it as best as I can. So to have that time for sorrow in your heart, and it doesn't mean, you know, don't go out and have a good time with your friends. You know, we live our days, and all this goes on. It's like God's heart must be full always of that, of both sorrow and joy and delight and, you know, sorrow. Next week, a week from today, is the Feast of Our Lady of Sorrows. We could maybe talk about that and bring an icon that I have of that, but it's Mother Mary with the 7 swords or 7 sorrows in her heart is the image of that. It's a beautiful icon. So, I mean, how do we hold the sorrow of the world in our heart as well as affirm life and be joyful? You know, first big letter that Pope Francis wrote to us was about, you know, Christians should be joyful. Here's the good news. We should live in the light of the resurrection. Did you know, I mentioned it at church this weekend. I was really moved Saturday night. Forget how that song goes now. All are welcome in this place. And in God's redeeming grace, all are welcome. All are welcome. Welcome to the broken. And so that's like great. I think I probably just start coming up for Mass and I hear the all are welcome and I'm singing that. Because as Nick said, our music director at our staff meeting this morning, goes, it's not like the first time we sang that song. We sing it pretty regular. But the verses were just pierced my heart. It's like, welcome to the brokenhearted who come here today. Welcome to the those who suffer violence, actually. That's the one that really hit me kind of hard. It's like, I was imagining people who suffer violence, people who are victims of domestic violence in their homes, or expanding my, not just at Eau Claire, but the people who suffer violence in Gaza and Ukraine. We welcome them and their passion into our worship. But what's strange about that song to me is it's like we're talking about all those things, but it's such a peppy song. Dun, 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 welcome who suffer violence, all who worry and despair. You are not alone, for you are God's own. Together we sing a song of praise. All are welcome. So I love it. I wasn't putting down the song at all, but it's like, wow, these harsh realities. Like if any of that, happened to your best friend or your child or a family member, you'd be going out to them with compassion. You suffered violence today. You're brokenhearted today. You feel forgotten, unloved today. And yet it's this peppy thing. It's kind of like there's a place where you belong. Bring that. Don't feel like if you're sort of like the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are those who weep. And you're not alone, for you are God's own. That's what it means to be blessed, right? So we hold that. And I don't know, I was trying to empathize. Like if I suffered violence on Saturday morning and then I came to Mass on Saturday and I heard that song, I think I would feel acknowledged and that there's a place for me and that whatever awful things are in my life, the love of God is there and there's a way forward for me. I hope. Maybe I'm being too facile about that. I don't know. But I've been really kind of taken by that. So getting back to parish news, so I messed up in the bulletin. I didn't mention John Gettinger, who's been a great mower of grass at St. I mentioned Jim and Steve, and I forgot John. John's kind of the new guy. But he's great. John's always so helpful with buildings and ground stuff. He's on our finance council. He used to work here for the beautiful city of Eau Claire, and he gives a lot of his time. So I'll make that correction in the bulletin next week as well. So I know if anybody, he would not be offended that I missed him, but still he deserves his due. Thanks. So there's this great lawn crew. Oh, and so I mentioned in the bulletin, which I'll mention now, anybody wants to help with that, Steve mentioned that in his former parish out of downstate or someplace, they had the 12 apostles. It was 12 guys 12 people took care of the grounds and the lawn and the trimming and all that stuff. And so right now it's like 3, which is good, but one really wants to take a break, and I think one that maybe doesn't want to do it but is being a good guy and helping. I'm not sure, but we could certainly use more people, men or women, if you want to do mowing. We got all the equipment. It's just that you got to do it. So we're probably good for this year, but keep that in mind for next year. So Ruth Ebert, for years, she does a lot of great stuff everywhere, and she works across the river here. And but for the parish, she does a lot. She's been doing our baptism classes since probably a couple of years after she was baptized. She's a child of the parish here, and anyway, she's thinking it's about time to maybe step back from that. So Patrice heard that Pam Stum said, yeah, if you ever have something I can do to help out, let me know. So Patrice said, Pam, we're looking for someone to teach baptism class. And Pam said, that'd be awesome, I'd love to do that. And Pam's such a good person and a good people person, and helps people. If you're around Pam, you feel like she cares about you and life is okay, and she's a good conversationalist, Anyway, so she's going to teach our baptism classes going forward, I think. So that's awesome. Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Ruth. Catechist Sundays this weekend, so everyone who teaches, including our Catholic school teachers, but also our religious ed is meeting tonight. I hope to get there by the end so I can say goodbye. They came. It's going on right now, I think. But we'll have called Catechist Sunday. So that's a big word to you. So catechism is probably you've heard of. It's the book of the teachings of the church. A catechist is someone who teaches someone about the faith. So it's Catechist Sunday. Everyone who teaches the faith will receive a blessing after 10 o'clock Mass. Children's choir, I think they're going to have like 4 times this year when they are the featured choir helping us pray. And so when they practice, it'll be Wednesdays at 3:25 and Sundays after the 10 o'clock Mass. If it's getting close to, the time when they have the Mass, then it could be like weekly, like 3-4 weeks in a row. But throughout the year, it won't necessarily be every week. It sort of depends on when the Mass is. So, but anyway, if your children want to be in the children's choir, it's good. Let Nick know, and it's on. You go to the website under the music ministry, and it's all sort of laid out there as well. Okay. How are we doing? Well, it's already 16 minutes. Isn't that crazy? I just want to acknowledge, I don't always do that, and I suppose it's not right if I do it for some and not for everybody, but we've had some awfully active and good people die in the last few weeks. And so most recently, Gordy Swatzina died on Monday, and his funeral will be this coming Monday at noon at St. James. And Gordy, if you're a regular at the Saturday Mass, you benefited from Gordy's hospitality. You would cook up, good things. If you ever host hospitality, it's fine just to bring Twinkies and give us the bill, cookies. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, okay? So that's great. Learn how to use our coffee machines. That's great. Shouldn't have to cost you any money, just time. We appreciate it. However, there are some who it's like their charism to cook and to give people food that is tasty, but that's always fun too, So Gordy did that all the time. He would say, I know Father Tom likes my nachos, so I think I'll have nachos this Saturday, And so I appreciated that, among other things. But he'd do the dishes for funeral lunches and macaroni, and he made the big macaroni and cheese for our summer fest. So he did a lot of work, but he also was just a good guy. I mean, if you were with him, you felt affirmed, listened to, cared for, all those things that make a community healthy. So we will miss him. And Bob Rissler died about the same time, and he was a custodian for a while, and he just came in at the Easter Vigil. If you saw the Easter Vigil online or were there, you saw his wedding. There's a validation or sacramental wedding of their union. She had just become Catholic, his beloved, and they got married at the Easter Vigil, So, and that's pending when his funeral might be. And then before then, we just had Mary Hagens, 98 years old, charter member, kind, faithful, PCCW, super active, taught in our school. You start listing things, it's just a little fraction, right? Her and her husband Larry were quite a team as far as serving the people of St. James in many ways. And again, just adding to the joyful atmosphere of the community, And before him, Jerry Nelson, who had a sickness that kind of took him out of the lineup for a while. But before then, he was, he's a finance council chair, and I don't know. I just heard a lot of stories from people about he was always just so helpful. He was a CPA. I don't know if he's a CPA or not, but he's an accountant and knew a lot about finances. And at the funeral, I just said, he loved people with his work, and it's a beautiful thing. We all got to find a way to donate our lives to others, and he did it by helping people, with their finances. And then Dick Piltz before then, just a good spirit, very generous in many ways, and so it's a lot to take in, missing all these good people that you're used to seeing every Sunday at Mass. Suddenly no, but and any of their surviving family that might be tuning in, God bless you. And, know you're not alone in your grief. The Lord's with you. People of St. James are with you. And not as acutely as you miss them, but we all miss the people that in your lives who've gone before us. So, yeah. Welcome all the broken-hearted. You are not alone, for you are God's own. Together we sing a song of praise. So we mix, right? We mix our faith with our sadness, right? Okay, let's see. Pope's been running around Southeast Asia. He's been in Indonesia and Papua New Guinea and East Timor. And East Timor is 98% Catholic. It's a Portuguese colony, but I guess it's the highest percentage Catholic country, other than the Vatican City state. Well, I'm surprised Vatican City would be, obviously mostly Catholic, but only 2 out of 100 that aren't Catholic, that seems. So, anyway, he goes from one of the very poorest countries, East Timor, to all of a sudden being in one of the very richest countries, Singapore, today. So I didn't hear how he spoke in Singapore. In East Timor, he talked to the clergy. It's very important to him that clergy not think they're all hot stuff. That would be humble servants. He gives that speech every year when the cardinals gather. The cardinals in their pomp and their red outfits and everything, they gather with him in Advent. And he says, don't think too highly of yourself, you guys. Remember, you got to be servants. And apparently in East Timor, they're called Amu. The priests are Amu, which means Lord. And people take their hand, the priest's hands, and they'll raise it to their forehead, kind of like kissing the ring sort of thing, but a little different there in East Timor. And he said, you know what, if that's where you're treated every day, you might start thinking you're hot stuff, and don't. He goes, remember, you're here to serve. You're here to serve. So I always think those are good talks that Francis gives. Schools in the Holy Land. I get these bulletins from the Holy Land ministry there, and I don't know. It's just so sad, but it's so I don't know what you say. So they opened a new school in Bethlehem, the Franciscans, the Holy Land custodians, and they were showing the beginning of the new school year, just like us. And it's all these kids, just happy and doing. Their teachers are great, and they got little sketches of actually a bee, like a humble bumblebee or a honeybee, and then they have to color it, and you're just watching these beautiful, sweet children living in this difficult area. And it said 90, where was it? I wrote it down. It said 90% of the resident families in Bethlehem, for example, in the West Bank, Palestinian territories, 90% of the resident families have lost all their income since the war, because they're not allowed to work in Israel like they had been before. Tourists are not coming. So it's pretty bleak. And yet here are these kids, and they're enjoying the moment. The teachers are with them, and it's beautiful, but your heart just goes out to them. You don't want to see them suffer. You want to see them educated and prospering, There's 18 custody schools, custos, the custodians of the Holy Land, the Franciscans. They have 18 schools in the Palestinian territories and in Israel. And then other religious orders have schools too, sisters and brothers. The Christian Brothers run the University of Bethlehem, which is a very important institution for Palestinians over there. I got to say Mass there and celebrate with them because they're brothers, they're not priests. They relied on local priests. So my time there, I got to be a chaplain for them for several weeks. It's a great honor and privilege. Plus they fed me a nice meal afterwards on their terrace, kind of overlooking Bethlehem. It's nice, beautiful days. But I think about Gaza, and you get like a whole year of no school for children and no education, and they're witnessing destruction regularly, living in fear. A lot of them have lost family members. In itself, that's very tragic and sad. But what does it portend for the future? uneducated, people that know violence, people that, how do you grow up without hate? For people that are bombing you, and people that supply the bombs, which is us, and this web of geopolitics, So it's not a recipe for lasting peace, is it? There's a lot of peacemaking that needs to be done, so we pray for it and do the best we can. It is, speaking of all that, I'm going to say one more thing about the Gaza. It's 9/11, right? So it's 9/11 is the, 23 years ago, attacks on the Twin Towers, the terrorist attack. I don't know, I remember that day, if you guys were alive. I remember I woke up all excited and happy because it was the release day for that. I've been waiting for months for the release of the new Bob Dylan album called Love and Theft, which has one of my favorite songs, Poor Boy, on it. And but there's also a song that begins, today has been a sad and lonesome day. It's kind of a blues thing. And so I come down, I'm ready to go to Borders Books to go get this album. And Father Shevs and some people are watching TV down in the lobby, and he just said, it's bad, it's really bad. And then I saw what was going on, and the plane crashing into the buildings. That was a stout, it was a Tuesday, so it was a stout day for me to go over UW Stout. And I went to Borders Books on the way to get the album, and I played the first track was Sad and Lonesome Day. And we got to campus, and university people thought maybe the campus ministry could put together a prayer, or maybe we offered, I can't remember. But we did have a candlelight prayer service that night. We had candles for Easter Vigil, and we tried to put something together. Sister Kathy was with me then, or was it Julie? Julie, I think. And it was Julie for sure. And one of our students had a dad who worked at the Pentagon. He worked for the Defense Department in occupational therapy, and sometimes was at the Pentagon, so she was scared to death. Her father was caught in that. But I remember putting that prayer service together, and I thought, I think my instincts were good. I'd read something later that confirmed it. It said, we should, when we're violated so badly like that, a terrorist attack on our soil and all the death, the impulse is anger and fight back and destroy back, violence for violence. And it was Sam Keen. He said, we got to grieve before we act. Let's grieve. Let's be sad together. Before we act in anger, let's weep. And so, I'm not sure we did as a nation. I'm not sure. Retaliated pretty fast, and geopolitics. What can I say? But that night we did Psalm 51. Which is like, my soul is deprived of peace. Create in me a clean heart. It's just kind of a grief prayer. It might have been Psalm 88. It was a psalm, but it was just about, this is hard. Our souls are dry. This is what we're feeling is awful. God, will you be with us? So that was kind of the tone. And then after our prayer, they invited the student body president to give a talk. And he kind of said, thank you, and then he got up and goes, they kicked us. We're going to kick them in the butt. And it's just all this anger and about, we're going to just destroy them because they hurt us, and we're going to destroy them like they never, it's just, and I'm not even saying who's right. I think we know what the country tried to do, but I thought, oh boy, So, that was 23 years ago. Yeah, I'm not sure Jesus would get elected president anywhere these days. He's not one to try to be the most powerful or the strongest, to be dominant over anybody. He's there blessing the poor and the grieving and the sorrowful, encouraging the peacemaker. And he'd probably be dismissed as weak. So anyway, that's for us to discern as his people how to live, right? So God bless you, everybody. I'll leave you with the bee. Bees can sting, but they also give us honey. I heard only like 2% of bees are honeybees, but anyway, God bless you all.